The Hybrid Max not being available in the ES is a massive failure. Massive, enormous failure. Okay, I can't stress that enough. No plug-in hybrid option. Another enormous failure. The Lexus ES has been around since 1989. It helped launch the brand here in North America. It has consistently been one of the best luxury sedans available on the market. Silky smooth V6 operation and hybrid in the later generations of the ES. Comfort, space, fuel economy, reliability. And then at the bottom of this page, we're reminded of the new generation coming out. The new generation ES is a complete departure from every single ES that preceded it. Electrified only now. Gone is the V6. And it was even debuted at the Shanghai Motor Show, letting you know that this vehicle is intended for the Chinese market. And we will, of course, get a stateside January is what I'm hearing. And that will come with some of the benefits of it being designed for China, but also some of the downfalls of it being designed for China and the Chinese market. And in today's video, just like I did with the Mazda CX-5 redesign, we're going to compare this model versus the outgoing model. We're going to look at a lot of the improvements, but we're also going to take a look at a ton of the head-scratching decisions for the Lexus ES. So guys, grab your snacks and drinks, buckle in. And if you're excited for today's content and today's topic, or if you're just a lover of the Lexus ES, whatever shape or form it comes in now, make sure to smash the like button. Subscribe for more. I will be driving it. More than likely, it will be January timeframe. All right, so stay tuned for that. And let's get into comparing this vehicle versus the previous generation. And real quick, if you're wondering why it's made for the Chinese market primarily, you don't have to look any further than the sales. The ES in 2023 sold 110,000 units. It's never sold that much in the United States. 110,000 units for China, while we had a respectable for a sedan market that's like flailing right now. It's floundering, it's sinking. The sedan market in China still remains strong, even though it's probably starting to convert a little bit to crossovers, but not like how we see it here in the United States. So it sold 43,000 last year. This year, it's a little bit behind pace at the end of July, for example. All right, but let's get into the images. And let's stop beating around the bush. The new Lexus ES's design is polarizing. I did a walk around with this vehicle earlier this year at Toyota HQC at their headquarters in Plano, Texas. The ES doesn't look anything like a previous generation ES, and it being a sedan is even questionable with its design. It's most similar to the Crown, the Toyota Crown sedan, compared to an ES, all right? They look, I mean, just looking at a base ES here, I know it's dorky. It doesn't have the bigger wheels or the F-Sport grille or the fancy headlights, but these two vehicles look like they're 2 to 3 generations apart. The design on the ES is no longer what I would call a sedan. But as we look from the side, you know, we started seeing this sloping roofline on this current generation, 7th generation ES. And they did that for fuel economy. But of course, they smoothed it out even more to where it looks like a liftback. But we don't have the functionality of a liftback just like the Crown sedan stateside. It's a lifted sedan. It's many inches taller. We'll go over the specifications. Of course, I made a spreadsheet. So we'll go over the specs at the end of this video, comparing the two models. All right. Look at how focused this is at being aerodynamic. The rear spoiler is gone. Door handles, they are built into the side of the vehicle, for example. The roofline has been possibly even swept back more. All right, if we look at the front of the car, all right, we're looking at the bottom as an F-Sport model with the, the lacy grille, the mesh pattern grille. I don't know if there's going to be an F-Sport on the new ES. Keep that in mind. And they could offer an F-Sport eventually because the power outputs on this is quite laughable for a luxury vehicle. But again, we'll cover that at the end of this. Look nothing alike as you would expect. The vehicle on top is quite a bit wider than the one on the bottom. We do have some reminiscence that this is a Lexus up top because it does have its L motif daytime running lights, and below that is an upside down L motif, which is the amber turn signal. It's pretty cool. I'm a big sucker actually of the headlights here, but I don't think I'm not going to say that they look better than what we have on the bottom. I don't like this blacked out area that is hiding the headlights here, and then you also have what could be fog lamps. No, these are corner lamps at the bottom, cornering lamps. So when you turn the wheels at night, it does light up the side of the vehicle. That is a real nice feature. But there's no grille here, such little grille, I should say, because of aerodynamics for battery electric. Battery electrics also do not need as much cooling. All right, so we have a much smaller opening here. Is this the exact same opening that we are going to see in the hybrid? It's hard to say. But I bet it is. I bet this is the front end, the one-size-fit-all front end, whether it's a 500E fully electric dual motor or if it's a 350H all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive hybrid. I bet this is what the front end is going to look like on every single model, essentially. All right. And then you're going to have flaps in here that can close for better aerodynamics. And then just like the front, the backs look nothing that similar, to be honest. The trunk lid opening, look how far it comes out. It's not like a traditional trunk lid. It looks like this whole back piece lifts up, almost like the hood of the vehicle, where the trunk lid is very tight and cropped in. All right, we have this similar design piece that flows down on the sides as we do here. Now, these are also, this little piece here, I don't know if it's going to make it to the US market, but this can be illuminated at night. With our lighting laws here, I wouldn't be surprised if it's outlawed. The bottom, no exhaust tips, and we are looking at a hybrid model here, so you're not going to see any visible exhaust tips. This is, of course, the dual motor all-wheel drive, fully electric. All right, you see some aerodynamic pieces down at the bottom, of course, for reduced drag. A very sleek looking back end for sure, but the taillights is just a Lexus light bar, and the Lexus logo is now and has been being replaced on new generation models for a while. Everyone's doing it. Everybody's getting rid of their logo on the back and just typing the font of the brand. It's really weird. I don't know if it's a cost-saving measure. I don't know why it's a trend right now. And in some instances, does it look better than the logo? Yes, but it does take away from having such an iconic logo for what Lexus is. But I don't know. I don't really care that much. But the light bar, it's very played out, but it's also very, very, very popular in China. All right, and that's where the Chinese market is right now. So, and that's, again, this car's designed for China through and through. All right. What you think about the exterior design on the ES, I still don't know. I don't know if I like it or not. This piece on the side is so aggressive. It's a Lexus has to be edgy. They have to be aggressive for the Chinese market. They need to stand out. All right. This is definitely going to catch your eye, but is it the sort of catch your eye that is pleasing to the eye, or is it the catching of your eye where you judge it immediately? I still don't know. And maybe that's a good thing. Let's get on the inside, because I don't really have an issue with the outside of the vehicle. It's on the inside is where I have a lot of reservations. Okay, there's those daytime running light turn signals, which are so cool. I think that's awesome. Here's a NACS charging port. Of course, we'll have NACS charging in the United States. But yeah, time to get on the interior and let's compare images. Okay, up top is the new ES and down below is the old ES. There are pros and cons to both interiors. Just looking at the one on the top is far more aesthetically pleasing. I think you guys would agree that the new ES's interior does have a more calming presence to it. The ES that we currently have, this is a F Sport model, for example, so it doesn't show the best of the ES's interior, honestly. Let me pull up a different image. Let me see if I can find one. Yeah, now we're cooking with fire. This is a much better image of what the current ES offers. All right, the F Sports, they're not as nice on the inside, in my opinion. All right, assuming this is like ultra luxury to ultra luxury trim here. I love the bamboo. Look at this accent that runs across the dash, the doors, the cup holders, the steering wheel. Fantastic. Great materials. Now, they have kept bamboo on the new one, and it is pretty dang cool. And it is ambient lighting on the back end of it, so it shines through the bamboo. This is like a 3D printed sort of bamboo design. I don't know if it's actually bamboo. I don't care if it's real bamboo personally. I just want it to look good and make it feel rich. Now, some people who are hoity-toity, they want the realest, nicest materials. I get it, but as long as it looks good, I mean, right? You can have a fake diamond ring. Most people don't care. They just see the big diamond ring and they're going to be impressed. Don't worry. My wife's wedding ring is a real diamond if you guys are the hoity-toities out there. But I'm not opposed to getting her a big old ring with a fake diamond, or should I say lab-grown diamond. And that's kind of like this interior here, all right? The materials, they look good, but they're probably not quite to the same quality of what we have down below, but that remains to be seen. Oh man, let's start with the screen. Now in China, they also have a duplicate screen as an option, which just looks terrible. What do I think about this big screen here? Does not look great. Honestly, the one down below doesn't look good either. All right, this looks better than down below from the entertainment aspect. A 14-inch screen, I believe, here, and then we have a 12-inch screen here. Gone is the clock, though. That ticks me off. The clock screams luxury, in my opinion, and Lexus did it so well for so many years, offering an analog clock. Gone. All right, you know what else is gone? Look at the climate control buttons. All right. I think I have a close-up of these climate control buttons. Hold on. Yeah, this is a bit better image for you guys. I'm going to read to you what Lexus says about these buttons. They call these buttons here on the dash responsive hidden switches. They say it was carefully crafted to align with human emotion. Well, if they are frustrating to use, you're going to get some emotion out of it. The physical switches were positioned near the ceiling and door areas to support intuitive, effortless operation. Okay, so we have buttons up here, okay, assuming we can't really see them. We have buttons on the door. Okay, I like that. But they kind of took away the buttons that we're familiar with on the steering wheel for a more touch capacitive setup. And I'm not that upset. I'm more upset about how crappy this steering wheel looks. All right, but anyways, I don't want to get ahead of myself. We'll come back to the steering wheels. These responsive hidden switches are also integrated into the steering wheels we just talked about, and instrument panel right here, delivering excellent functionality and usability, Lexus says, while contributing to a clean, minimalist cabin environment. I think first and foremost, they contribute to a clean and minimalist cabin environment. Do they offer functionality and usability? And the answer is time will tell. I have touched them. They do give. There are real buttons underneath. However, they disappear. The lights disappear that overlay on the buttons. All right. So I'm thinking like if this light LED strip or whatever this is that overlays on the real buttons goes out, good luck playing with the climate control. You're going to have to fumble through the touchscreen to get the climate control to work. I'm not a big fan of that. That's a big step back in terms of functionality. Lexus can make, as we get back to the comparison here, Lexus can make good-looking buttons. They're just choosing not to because of the Chinese market and its fixation with very minimal design. Everyone's chasing Tesla. Everyone's chasing the Chinese automakers right now. Lexus, of course, is thrown in with that boat. So they're like, hey, less buttons is better. That's what the new younger people want who are buying these cars. I don't know if that's the case stateside. In fact, I know after making my Mazda video, a lot of people just want buttons, okay? I can give up some aesthetics for safety. Okay, and having real buttons is a safety thing. You know, right now I'm driving the Murano, and the Murano got rid of the real buttons for climate control for touch capacitive. Now, it's not the worst because like if you look at a Volvo that I've been driving recently, all of it's in the touchscreen, and that is just that's the worst case scenario. But real buttons here and switches is the name of the game, and it should always be the name of the game. We're not driving a cell phone. Once cars become fully autonomous, yes, you can get rid of a lot of these buttons and just run everything through a screen. But I have to take my eyes off the road immensely when you start taking away switches, buttons, and knobs. All right. They kept the volume knob, but they turned it into a scroll wheel. It looks more pleasing, but it's definitely less functional. And the ES has this dual combo knob here, volume on the top and tuning behind it. I love it. Look at all these physical buttons for radio, media selection. All that's gone. You're going to have to fumble through the touchscreen for all of that now. This is a tough one. And look at this. This is something, what was I in recently? I think it was an Audi. I think it was an Audi e-tron with a big screen. And what big screens tend to do is they push your face vents lower. So now they're more like chest vents, because a lot of times they don't have the pushing power to get to your face when they're this low. All right. So if you look at the ES here, the current one, these are sitting essentially at the bottom of the touchscreen on the new model. All right. Now the vents have been moved about 4 inches lower, would be my guess. And that's not going to be that great of a cooling experience. All right. So that's a big loss, in my opinion, in hot Florida. They also took away driver mode select. These Frankenstein knobs, they're ugly, but they were awesome for just quickly flipping it into sport mode. All right. That's all completely gone. Completely gone. You don't even have a button. You have to fumble through a touchscreen in modern Lexuses to get to the sport mode. So I don't even screw with it. It's a waste of time and it's a safety hazard. Now, I do like this bigger digital display behind the steering wheel. That is a win. I do appreciate that. And before we get on my rant on the steering wheel, the power button is about in the same spot. As we go down here, the cup holders are in a better spot. This drive select, it's not as good as a physical selector. This is a drive-by-wire setup, shift-by-wire. I should say shift-by-wire. And it's not regal at all, but it is more functional and it is cleaner. It's a cleaner looking vehicle. Look at all these juicy buttons for ventilated and heated seats, your sunshade button. Oh, guess what? Now that's all baked into the touchscreen, which sucks. USBs down below. That's a good spot for them. Wireless chargers down there, which is a good spot because currently the wireless charger is somewhere underneath the armrest. We still have the touchpad and the ES. That can be discontinued. I'm okay with that because the touchpad, you're just better off using the touchscreen in most instances. And the touchpad does not work worth a damn with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. The defrost in the front and the rear is always illuminated, even though there's a volume indicator that disappears as well. All right, so your climate control buttons disappear and the car recognizes when your hand gets close and then it illuminates. How stupid is that? I hope it's not as bad as it sounds in the press release. I hope when you are in drive that the buttons are always up, because imagine you're driving and you're like, oh, I want to reduce the temperature, but that button's not illuminated until your hand gets close to it. So you almost have to preempt moving your hand close to the panel before taking your eyes off the road. And then you are like, okay, it is in the right spot or it isn't in the right spot. And then you work from there. So disappearing buttons is worse. It's worse than like a touch panel, because a touch panel, the buttons, even though they're not real buttons, they're always there. Now what Lexus has done, say, hey, we've given you real buttons, but we've hidden them because buttons are not pretty. All right, so we hide the buttons. In fact, not only do we hide the real buttons that are existing underneath because they do move, all right, we'll make them invisible so they're not distracting to you. Oh man, I want to throw my head through the computer screen right now. All right, shall we get to the steering wheel? That's a great panel roof. That's a win for the new ES. All right, steering wheel to steering wheel here. This thing looks like it's pulled out of a cheap, generic car. Where the hell is my Lexus badge? This is trash. I love Lexus. I get so fired up. I used to work for Lexus. I used to sell Lexus. So why am I so hard on them? Because I have an emotional attachment to them and I know what they're capable of when they are giving their full attention to the brand. LC500 and the NX and the ES are, and the IS sort of, but the IS has definitely been neglected. But those three vehicles, the Coupe LC, the ES, the current ES, and the NX right now, they're all really good examples of how good Lexus can be. The rest of the vehicles in their lineup are like the TX is a rebadge of a Grand Highlander. The UX is super compromised. The RX is too big and ugly. And the GX is a rebadge from the Land Cruiser, right? So, and the same thing with the LX. LX is a rebadge from the bigger Land Cruiser. And so when I see this is a joke. This is a complete joke. This is not luxury. This is bargain basement. Trendy. Okay, it's trash. My real buttons have been replaced with touch capacitive buttons. Now, again, I was in another vehicle recently, a lot of vehicles recently. They all start blending together because everyone's moving to this sort of setup, touch capacitive buttons on a steering wheel. All right. These buttons also disappear because they are illuminated. So they disappear when the car's off, for example. All right. You just hope that these lights don't go out because then you might not know what you're doing to integrate with the screen behind. Look at this. They've turned the volume knob or the volume real buttons here into like this really weird little switch thing. I need to interact with this while driving the car to see if it's a big downgrade. Forward and backward seek buttons, I like that it's close to the volume. I do appreciate that. That's a win over this system. All right, being that the volume and changing of the stations or the next track is in the same area. Cruise control. This I think I'm okay with this. This is an okay setup here because you press this button to turn on radar cruise, your lane centering, your spacing, your different mode if you want normal cruise control or radar cruise. I actually like this quite a bit. And I like how you can real easily, by pressing up on this little bar here, increase or decrease the speed. I like this. I'll have to see how well this plays with, again, the audio settings. But the quality of the materials, the stitching, the lack of a Lexus badge, and just typed out here, it's bad. It's bad. The functionality of it might be fine in real world testing, but while this looks like high quality leather and I'm sure it's comfortable in the hands, it looks terrible. Not the sort of wheel I want in my Lexus, that's for sure. Guess what? They also got rid of your memory seat settings for touch capacitive memory seats. I'm okay with that because you're hardly ever messing with the memory seats. Okay. You press it once and it's over. All right. So the current ES, while it's not as pretty, I would rather live with this interior on a day-to-day basis. It's a safer interior. It is a more functional. It's easier and more intuitive interior, and it has better luxury. It's not as pleasing to the eye, but it has better luxury. All right. With that out of the way, it's time to get into this spreadsheet. What I've done is put the current generation 7th Gen ES here on the left for the V6, the hybrid, and then I have the 3 configurations of the ES that we're getting with this 8th generation. Okay, the new hybrid, the updated, more powerful hybrid, more efficient in theory hybrid. We have an ES 350e front-wheel drive, fully electric sedan, and then an ES 500e, dual motor, but front wheel drive biased. Let's get first into the dimensions. It's 6.5 inches longer. We're getting real close to an LS. Now the LS, the flagship Lexus sedan, could very well be discontinued, and Lexus just have one global sedan, the ES for the luxury, not the performance, not the IS, for example. Rest in peace, GS, right? But the LS it could very well be on the way out. It is 206 inches long. The new ES is 202 inches long. So it's closer in length to the LS than it is the ES, or should I say the outgoing ES. The new one is 75.6 inches wide. So it's 2 inches wider, and it's actually about an inch wider than the LS. It is 4.5 inches taller than the current ES. So when we go back to the side profile of it, it's more like that hopped up crown. Why is it so much higher? Well, it needs to be higher because of the big battery that sits underneath of it. Okay, so the battery is integrated into the floor, and that raises the height of the entire vehicle. 4.5 inches. That's going to, in some ways, mess with driving dynamics. It could mess with braking distances, possibly. Maybe aerodynamics. However, I think this is a more aerodynamic vehicle, even though it sits higher up. And that's a benefit. It sits higher up. Lexus buyers are old in the United States, and they're the oldest average age for a luxury brand, actually. All right, so having an easier in and out seat for the sedan ES, I think it could actually benefit the ES immensely. All right, let's get into the wheelbase. The wheelbase is 3 inches longer. Why is it so much longer? Well, it needs to have a lot of space in between the front and rear axles for a big battery. If we look at the Lexus LS wheelbase, it's 123 inches long, much longer than the 116-inch wheelbase we see here on the new ES, for example. Curb weight. So I said that it is getting a new hybrid generation. In some literature, Lexus says it's a 6th generation. It's a 5th gen. This is the same exact setup as we have in the new Camry. However, it's rated a little bit higher in terms of horsepower, 245 horsepower versus the Camry's 225. Okay, now it could be just due to the fact that it's rated on premium fuel. This hybrid system in the Camry is a home run, and it's going to be great here in the ES. Now it also gets all-wheel drive. The Camry gets all-wheel drive option too, all right? But you'll still have your choice of front-wheel drive here on the ES 350h. But we have an increase of weight here. If we look at about 3,700 pounds to 4,000 pounds, all right? It's a 300-pound increase, if not more. All right, between ES hybrid to ES hybrid. It's a bigger vehicle, so we're going to see a bigger, an increase in weight. What's crazy is once you get into these battery electrics, you can see upwards of 1,300-pound increase over something like the ES 350. That is enormous. That's going to wear through your tires a lot faster. And it's going to make for the handling of the vehicle suffer as well compared to an ES hybrid. So not looking good in terms of curb weight, but that's just the current state of batteries until we have lighter solid state batteries or whatever new technology comes in by the time I'm dead. It's how slow battery technology seems to be evolving right now. All right, tire sizes. Now this is actually a win for the ES. The rim size is bigger. And now we don't know if 18-inch wheels will be available in the United States. I highly doubt it. They will be available in Japan for an ES 300 hybrid, which we won't see that. All right, we're not seeing a 2-liter hybrid like they might get in Japan. All right, but we have a thicker wheel size. So you see this 55-inch thickness here. That's going to be a big win for ride quality. Even though we can get 19-inch wheels, you can see the F Sports or for example, have 19-inch wheels, but ride quality suffers as a result because of a skinnier tire. But these all have equally, like if we look at the 21-inch wheels on the 500e, for example, you can get the 500e with 19-inch wheels, which I would be going because I want better range with the 19-inch wheels if I was even looking at an electric in the first place. But I want a better ride quality with this 55-inch thickness. So yeah, that's a win. That's a win for the new ES because the vehicle's bigger. It can have bigger wheels and tires. All right. Not like bigger wheels is not always a better thing, but bigger tires, thicker tire wall is a better thing, in my opinion, when we're talking about a luxury vehicle. So that's good. All right. So let's talk about one of the biggest issues I have with this is performance, and no mention of F Sport. So they're killing off F Sport, and maybe F Sport goes away entirely within the Lexus brand. That could happen. I've talked about that in previous videos. So the future of F Sport is very, very up in the air, and F in general, because there are no more F cars as RCF has been discontinued after the ISF, after the GSF. Whew. Okay. So we have 245 horse. We have 30 more horsepower versus the old ES hybrid. 0 to 60 should be about a half second faster. That's great. Okay, I'm all for that. Fuel economy, though, should go down because we have more weight to pull here on the new ES. So fuel economy might be closer to 40 miles per gallon, unfortunately. If you want better fuel economy, get the Camry LE and get 60 miles a gallon. All right, that thing's just a hoss. All right, and it only costs $30K. Well, this thing is going to, who knows what it's going to cost. It's going to go up in price substantially, especially for these electrics, which no one in the US wants right now. But in China, that's all the rage, right? Chinese market is all the rage for battery electrics. The old V6, depending on what publication you're looking at, can do about, we'll just say 6.5 seconds, 0 to 60 for the 302 horsepower outgoing V6. Rest in peace, V6. That's much faster than even the new hybrid, but the fuel economy is not nearly as good as the hybrid. And look at this. Look at this travesty here. You have a luxury vehicle in the ES, okay? And when going fully electric, you have the benefit of going rear-wheel drive if you do single motor. And it's not going to be a hit in fuel economy if you go rear-wheel drive, or should I say energy efficiency. But they decided to do front-wheel drive in classic ES fashion. They shouldn't have done that. They should have gone rear-wheel drive here for better driving dynamics and better handling. But they decided to go front-wheel drive and front-wheel drive bias on the dual motor. And that's a fail. It's a big fail. They had an opportunity here to make the ES a replacement for the LS, a replacement for the GS, which was rear-wheel drive biased, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it here, and they could have simply just put the motor in the back, and they didn't do it. This is such a lost opportunity. Also a lost opportunity here, and it's just ridiculous. Only 221 horsepower on your base electric. Look at what the Chinese are. This is a car made for the Chinese market, and you're coming in to tell me your single motor only produces 221 horsepower? That's a joke. There's single motors everywhere in China right now that are 500 plus horsepower that get just as good efficiency. This, to me, is them cheaping out, them underdeveloping this car, all right, for the single motor and the dual motor. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 9 seconds? That's a joke. 9 seconds is barely like not the Camry hybrid that I just drove with like a 7.40 to 60. 7.4. And a Camry that will cost half of what this ES350 will and have no range anxiety. It's a lot lighter, so it handles better. It's just so frustrating from a Lexus enthusiast perspective. All right, 9 seconds, 0 to 60 for your electric car. I know it's the single motor, but that is a joke. It should be 7 seconds minimum. Minimum 7 seconds. It should be 300 horsepower minimum from a single motor. Nope, they're just like, hey, we're just gonna throw the BZ 4X's or whatever they call it, the BZ Woodlands. The BZ Woodland has more power than this. I take a step back. The BZ Woodland has a lot more power. The BZ Woodland is gonna have 375 horsepower and be able to do a 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. I'm gonna say it'll be low fours. Okay. So this is a joke, an absolute joke to have this sort of acceleration in what they call a flagship. All right. There's nothing else other than to say that this is a joke, just like the steering wheel is a joke. All right. The touch panel with hideable buttons. All right. Illuminated buttons. That's a joke. All right. So battery size here, 77 kilowatt hours. Lexus is expecting about 300 miles of range. This was my calculation. We'll see. All right. Dual motor. All right. Dual motor now. So we're going to get performance here. 338 horsepower. It's the exact same horsepower as a BZ. Not good enough. With electrification, you don't need to be so conservative and have a copy and paste of a V6 from a Camry to a V6 to an ES. You don't need to do that because internal combustion engines, it's very costly to develop a Lexus specific engine, right? It just doesn't make any sense. So I'm okay with them carrying, and actually they actually taken a step back there. This base hybrid is fine, but they missed a big opportunity with hybrids that we're going to touch on here in a little bit. Okay, so back to the dual motor here. You're saying that it's the exact same setup as a BZ. Meanwhile, this new BZ Woodland is going to have about 40 more horsepower and has 0 to 60 in low fours. I know this is no, it's not a bigger car because a BZ Woodland's a wagon. This is a joke. 0 to 60 in about five and a half seconds, because we're looking at 0 to 100 kilometers here, which is 62 miles an hour. So we're talking 0 to 60. Let's say, give it the benefit of the doubt, 5.5 seconds. Okay, that's fast. That should be the base. That should be the base setup here. But no, they just are like, hey, we need to protect the range here, because the range is what people are talking about, not the acceleration. I'm telling you, when you're talking about a luxury car, you need to have everything. There shouldn't be compromise. BEV is a huge compromise due to its charging, due to its range. All right. Don't skimp out on the acceleration, because that's what EVs do extraordinarily well. They're smooth, they're fast, but they didn't even put a fast single motor in here. It's a joke. Dual barely acceptable. This is supposed to be the flagship, but strangely, this ultra luxury package with massaging rear seats is not available on the dual motor. It's only available in the single motor. So maybe this is just a theory. Okay. Maybe they didn't do rear wheel drive because they're like, oh, we need to protect the reclining rear seats for the Chinese market for a few customers. And then everyone else who buys the ES globally, who doesn't get the reclining rear seats, or like the 1% of ES buyers, let's say, get the reclining massaging rear seats with ottomans or whatever it is. That means that 99% have to deal with a front wheel drive underpowered powertrain. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's very, very questionable, highly questionable. Charge rate. This is also not good. This is bare minimum for a mainstream car, like a BZ, for example. 10 to 80% charging in 30 minutes. That's optimal. Optimal with battery preconditioning and the temperatures being 25 degrees Celsius. But if you go to minus 10 degrees Celsius, the charging time will take 60 minutes to go 10 to 80%. Not good enough. All right. These models are going to completely flop in the United States, and you have no EV tax credit. You might be saying, Kirk, it's built in Japan, I wouldn't get an EV tax credit. But if you leased, you could get the EV tax credit, no matter where it was made, no matter what it cost. That's gone out the window when this vehicle launches. These ES models, the fully electric ones, are going to be a joke in the United States. And from what I'm hearing, the ES is launching as fully electric in the United States, and the hybrid is coming sometime later in 2026. I hope that's not the case. I pray to God hope that's not the case. This is a fine powertrain for an ES hybrid. I want to look at Lexus RZ sales right now. RZ, its only electric car, is down 33%, and that's with EV tax credit and massive incentives from Lexus to move this car. All right. This ES being like the more performance focused ones being fully electric, they're not even that high performance, is a joke. And the range goes down to 250 miles on the dual motor. A joke. Right? This car, if I had to guess, is going to cost like $70,000, maybe more. The base ES front wheel drive, probably 55 to 60. The ES hybrid, well, what does it start with now? It starts at 43. So if they can get this to stay at about 45, but guess what? The ES goes from being made in the United States to made in Japan. So now that's a 15% tariff. So it's just like this compound snowball effect of all these missteps on this ES, but the no bigger misstep. It's not the design. It's not the disappearing buttons. It's not the ugly steering wheel. The biggest misstep is the only internal combustion option being a 350h, and them focusing mainly, I should say, on electric. And the electric offerings are a joke compared to the competition, even in the United States. All right, I just drove the new Q6 e-tron. It's too expensive, but its charging and its range is decent. It's pretty decent. It can charge like 250 kilowatts. The EX90 that I drove could charge at 270 kilowatts peak. They charge a lot faster given perfect circumstances, and they have much better range and efficiency. Okay, these are not good enough. In a sedan, you should be looking at Lucid. Now, I know the Lucid Air starts at about 70K, but there's going to be some overlap with a Lucid Air and an ES 500e. So if we look at a Lucid, this is the benchmark for luxury cars in the United States. 500 miles of range. 500 miles of range, rear-wheel drive. You can get this thing with 1,200 horsepower. 0 to 60 under 1.9 seconds. Obviously, that's the Sapphire. 200 miles of charge in 12 minutes. This car, this Lucid, is about 10 years ahead, would be my guess, of the ES electric that we're getting. This is true electric car luxury. I know it's a lot of touchscreen. I have my issues with that, but in terms of the space, the luxury, the charging, the speed, the dynamics, the efficiency, everything here is a home run, other than not being a familiar luxury name. Okay, so this is the gold standard, and the Lexus ES, which is going into an extremely hostile competitive market in China, has no shot. It has no shot in China. It has no shot in the United States as a fully electric. The hybrid will be just fine. Let's get back to some of the cool things. Again, the panel roof is great. Massaging rear seats, I guess that's cool. But again, I have my issues with that. Dynamic rear steering, that's a big win. I love that. Love that in the Crown sedan. And you can have fragrances on the inside, which is cool. I like that. All right, but it's only going to be in the high-end models, which are going to cost probably $70,000. I'd rather have a Lucid Air. All right, so here's the big misstep for Lexus, and they can fix this. They can fix this once they see these models completely flop and they lose money on them, plus the tariffs, okay? They can fix this situation. Offer these by order only. All right, now that CAFE is dead, or more than likely CAFE regulations or fines are dead, in the United States, they don't need to bring these stateside. They don't need to. Bring them in as as a demo car so people can test drive, see what a Lexus electric is all about. Also, make them to order only. To order only. Don't have these sitting around on lots costing the manufacturer or the dealer. Okay, this is the only model they should come out with right now, in my opinion. These are order only. They need to have the Hybrid Max as an option. Okay, if you don't have the V6 anymore, give us a Hybrid Max. The 366 horsepower dual motor hybrid, that does 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds, right? Okay, which is faster than, it'd be faster than its flagship dual motor electric, which is a joke. So we can get it in the Crown. You can get it in the Crown for $55K. Great powertrain, smooth, efficient. You get 30-ish miles per gallon out of it. All right, but you get really good performance and dynamic rear steering. The Hybrid Max not being available in the ES is a massive failure. Massive, enormous failure. Okay, I can't stress that enough. No plug-in hybrid option. Another enormous failure. The Toyota end has got it figured out. They're like, okay, well, we can offer the plug-in hybrid RAV4 and a normal hybrid RAV4. This is a Lexus. You should have your options, and having an electric option is fine, okay? But not having what Toyota and Lexus do best in the entire world, they're arguably the best. Now, I'm not comparing the EREV setups in China, okay? I'm talking about plug-in hybrid, power, efficiency, and range. The new RAV4 will have 50 miles of electric range, 320 horsepower. That should be in this ES as an option. You know that they can do it because this thing sits so much higher than the old ES to fit large battery electric batteries. There's no reason that the ES shouldn't have a 500 or a 550H plus or whatever they want to call it. There's no reason. 0 to 60 would be 5 seconds or something. Maybe even maybe 5.5 on the plug-in hybrid, right? You have the extra weight, okay? But a hybrid max would be about 5 seconds. It should have the same, if not better, or next generation powertrains as the RX. Leave the EVs to do EV stuff, all right? You have one EV already in your Lexus lineup, and it's a joke, all right? It's a fine car, meaning it's smooth, but range is terrible on it. It's not good compared to its competition's specifications. It's a good Lexus. It's really smooth. It's really quiet. I think if you bought one for city usage, you'd be fine. But people are, the market speaking, they don't want EVs, especially Lexus EVs, all right, for the most part, because you can get better luxury EVs from the competition, whether that's Audi, whether that's Lucid, all right? There's just a lot of other options out there that are going to do EV better, all right? And I think I need to wind this down. I think I've been ranting for almost an hour. I cannot believe that before editing. The Lexus ES, I'm very passionate for this car. I used to sell them. I was working for Lexus. Shout out to Lexus of Omaha if you're watching. I was working for Lexus when the ES launched. Oh, we're going to miss the CD player too. Shoot, I forgot about that. When the 7th generation launched in 2019, or summer of 2018, I think is a 2019 model year. And man, beautiful car, cool new paint colors, great interior. The hybrid was so good on it. It still is so good. The V6 silky smooth. All right. Everyone was a little bit miffed by the lack of all-wheel drive. Then they brought in all-wheel drive, but it was with a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated. And we're like, this is a joke. This is a complete joke. An ES 250 all-wheel drive. Like, why can't the hybrid get all-wheel drive? It's so frustrating. Obviously, the Camry has all-wheel drive, and then the new ES hybrid, I should say, because there is only one hybrid powertrain, unfortunately. But it has all-wheel drive functionality now. Anyways, when I was talking about the 7th gen, great car. The sales maintained in the 7th gen. This new one, when it launches, the sales are going to plummet unless they have the hybrid at high availability. But I'm not getting my hopes up for that. I think the hybrid is going to launch later, and it is the only viable option for the majority, for the vast majority. The 95% who want an ES want an internal combustion under the hood, all right? Whether it's a plug-in hybrid, well, that would be maybe 10%. You don't have that option. Whether it's a performance hybrid, maybe that would be 15%, okay, something like that. And then you would have the 65% plus maybe more that are okay with the base hybrid that's smooth, quiet, efficient, and powerful enough, all right? But yeah, the Lexus, this one hurts me a lot, but I got to shut it down there. If it hurts me, all right, I know it's going to hurt a lot of you guys as well. All right, so I'll see you in the comments. I can't wait to drive this vehicle in less than a year. And we can just keep our fingers crossed that Lexus finds a way to bring in hybrid max and plug-in hybrid variants of the ES. Don't really care for the electric. It's going to be smooth. It'll be fast-ish, very relaxing to drive. It's going to be heavy, and it's going to be a tire muncher compared to the hybrid. So I'm showing it, and it's going to be expensive. Whew. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for putting up with my rant, and long live the ES.